Hello everyone. In this video, I am going to explain how I implemented Laravel Pagination with Datatable, how it's been blended together. So we have the first data which it was fetched from uh, Laravel through Laravel, which is 30 entries, 30 data from the database. So now, if I go to the end of the data, you can still have next with data table to fetch more data. And we have continuous from 32, previous stop at 31. So we can have more like that and like that. How would I blend this together? So let's see from my code. So first of all, let's check the Laravel pagination. So this all list X here, formally I had to prepare the data in a form that supports the data table Ajax method. So right now I intended to use the Laravel pagination. I want Laravel to paginate from the backend directly. So now I'm returning the user to paginate to 30. I have up to 1,000 of user on my database. So now it's paginating to 30. So it's refreshing data 30 by 30. So now let's go back to my to the code where I use my data table. So first of all, the idea behind this is I have a method that holds the data table itself. So in this method, I have the Axios that send a request to this URL to the URL that fetch the data from the uh, Laravel method. So we have the response which is stored in this users variable. So now this is loading is just to show that okay the page started loading. So we have a set out time which allows this guy to finish its operation. So set out time simply means that okay, after some particular second, after 1 second, so it should execute all the block of code in it. So as we assume after 1 second, this guy has finished its operation. So we have the data table, which is initialized and stored in the table variable. So we have all the parameter for the data table. And now the major thing here now is that does the work is this on event that is being attached to the data table initialization. So now we have this draw. This draw simply means that okay, whenever the data table is being redraw, then execute all this block of code in it. So whenever you click next, so the table is redraw. So whenever you click next, the table is redraw. So now what I did in this draw method is I firstly get the page information. So the page info plus 1 here simply mean the current page plus 1 if it equals to the page info pages info.pages. This info.pages return the total number of pages that data table is rendering. So now if they equals, which means currently I'm on the last page. So just like I did here, if I click on 10, so I'm on the last page here. So automatically what happens? And also the user current page, which is returned by the by Laravel pagination. The current page if it's not equals to the last page, because on the response we have on the Laravel response we have the current page and we have the last page. It tells us that okay, we are on the current page. It tells us that okay, this is the last page and other parameter that comes with it. So now if this does not equals to the last page, then we know that oh, definitely we are on the last page of what of the data table, and also there's still data remaining to be fetched from the database. So now we said okay, what we do now is that we on disable we remove the disable button, we remove the disable attributes from this data table button, because automatically, for example, when we come here, we see how it's been disabled. So that is how it's supposed to be disabled for this next, but because we still have next data to fetch, so it was enabled. So now this one here, it's what it does is it add an event, attach an event to this, to the next button, and also, and what it does is recall the method, this main method that we declared here. It recall the method, then pass the next page URL, which we have from the Laravel pagination response. So the next page URL, which is passed to this place, then what happens is it recall, to re-execute this Axios method, and the process continues like that. So now we can now have the next data being fetched. So now remember, we have the destroy here. We have the destroy to set to true in the data table. So it's been set to true because if a new data is being re-rendered, if a new data is being rendered on the page, they will have an issue, or like all the settings and this pagination and all the search and other any other functionalities here might has an there might be an issue. So actually there might be an issue along the way. So the data table generally we pop out an error message. So now in order to rectify that, so let the data table handle it by destroying the table and redrawing the table again. So the same way what I have done for the next also, I did for the previous also. So this means that, okay, if the current page is equals to 1 and the pages is equals to 1 and okay, sorry, this is not supposed to be there. If the current page is is equals to 1, so now if current page is equals to 1, which means that we're on the last page, right? We are the first page of the data table, and the user's current page, which is the current page that is being sent to the Laravel pagination, is not equals to 1. So this means that we have more data. We have more data to fetch. If the current page here is not equals to 1 from the Laravel pagination, which means there are more data behind, hidden from the back end, which has not been fetched. So assuming it is equals to 1 now, we know that, okay, we are at the current page, we are the first fetched data from the database. So we know that, okay, we can't go backward anymore. So now if the page is equals to 1 here, then we know that we are at the first page of data table. Then we can go backward again to fetch if this is not equals to 1. So come to this place, disable or remove the disable button for preview previous before, because by then when the page is equals to 1 here, we can see that it's been disabled. But if we have much more data to fetch, then it will not be disabled, it will be enabled. So okay, this guy here is not supposed to be what I used here actually. So that is why it has not been. So we have pre, I think it's pre that prev or fully. So let me just reload the page. So I assume it should work now. So probably there is an error. So go back to console. This was not done. Okay, probably I'm targeting the wrong button. So what I will do now, what I will quickly do, right click on this previous, then inspect to check the button there. So now the previous button, this previous button has previous, not prev. So that is why it wasn't working. So prev, okay, the class with previous, not prev. So now we can now try. So it's disabled now. So let's get the next data. So assuming Okay, so now let's trace this. Probably there's a problem here. So alert this guy. Let's know probably it's coming into here. Oh, sorry, I didn't test this guy. So we have AK. It's working. So now let's come back. So okay, this is where it's working. It's working on 2. So does it mean that the current page should be 0? Current page is 0. I think that is where the mistake is. So the current page is 0. You can note that we add +1 here to be able to be equals to the last page. So which means the current page is starting from 0. So now let's try again. So now it's been disabled. So now let's click next. So if we have this guy here, oh, what is the problem? So let's try to check again what's happening. So now, sorry, let's quickly make it try. Okay, yeah, it's working. Yeah, it's working here, but something is wrong. Yeah, I think it's correct. So remove attributes, disabled. Okay, sorry, it's not remove attribute, it's supposed to be remove class. Yeah, the class that's actually disabled is not the main HTML attribute. We have gotten that, so because of this remove class. So now it's supposed to be remove class, so we have remove class. So now let's try again. So now let's go to the next, fetch the next data from Laravel. So come back here. So we now have, you can fetch previous data, which is supposed to start from 1. So now, can we see that everything moved nicely? So now, I will love us to not put the next and previous data, like the next and previous, the pagination number, which will make your work much more easier. So if you have only the previous and the next, so in this way, it will look blended, it will blend more with Laravel pagination, and also you can control this guy by offing this guy from the Datatable JS option. So when you off this guy, then you can simply make yours with the response from the Datatable, the Laravel pagination, the response data, which you can easily get from here. So all these lists, we have the total number of data we have in database by getting the last page. So we have total number in the database is 3,000. So you can easily say, okay, showing the we have per page is 30. So you can easily do a calculation. So currently it's showing to 30. So from, we have a from parameter also. So when you get the from parameter is within here, you say from, showing from 1 to 30 of total of 3,041 data. So when you go next again, it will tell us showing the from so number to so number of data. I think this will solve the problem of blending Laravel pagination and Datatable.js. So thank you. Please subscribe to this video if you find this video helpful to you. Thank you.